Reasons that she lost to Trump in 2016, remarkable.
The use of my email account was turned into, the biggest scandal since Lord knows when. They covered it like it was Pearl Harbor. If you look at Facebook, the vast majority of the news items posted were fake. There's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites. I inherit nothing from the Democratic Party. I also think I was the victim of a very broad assumption I was going to win.
We could spend the entire hour playing tapes of all the various ways the election was stolen from her, aiming to avoid confronting the real reasons, apparently. Well, now, longtime advisor to Hillary Clinton, Mark Penn, says that she may indeed try again, a third run at the White House in 2020.
A lot of Democrats think she was unfairly denied winning the last presidential race. She's a pro, and she learns, and Clintons never stop until they get where they want to go, and I say don't count her out.
Author and columnist Mark Steyn joins us tonight. So Mark, so we're treating this like it's crazy. I know both you and I are thinking this is insane, but why is it insane, actually? She is the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. It was stolen from her by the Macedonian data farms. Yeah. We've agreed on that for a long time. Yeah. Why wouldn't she be the presumptive nominee, seriously, right now?
Well, I do think it makes a lot of sense. If the 2020 election were to be a rerun of Hillary versus Trump, when the Florida Democrats decide to steal it, then the Broward and Palm Beach County guys will already have the 2016 ballot sitting around in the cupboard, so they won't have to stay up all night running the photocopier as they are at the moment. So it does have a lot to commend it. And Hillary's rationale that she lost because everybody was expecting her to win. She's like the, I think it was the Yogi Berra joke, that it's, whatever the line was, it's such a popular restaurant, nobody goes there. And that's basically the Hillary campaign. But she's convinced that the third time will be the charm. And I don't rule her out because compared to Bernie and Joe Biden, she has the bloom of youth upon her.
What would she run on? What she ran on last time? Vote for me or you're immoral?
Well, I think she should actually go back to where she was in the early 90s when she was the crazy left-winger who believed in universal health care. Then she became the centrist Senate candidate. Then she ran last time as basically this kleptocrat who was raking in the big bucks from Kazakh oligarchs and various Saudi princes. So basically the Democrat Party has slid to where she was circa 1992. You can see why she's kind of annoyed that she doesn't get the credit for that.
No, that's such a good point. And do you remember that? I mean, you were around, I was too. People thought that she was really left-wing before she went full-blown corporate Walmart board member, apologist for big tech. If she returned to that, she might have a shot, for real.
Yeah, no, she was. If you remember, she was, I mean, people don't remember this, but her mentor was Jessica Mitford of the English Mitford sisters, who was the left-wing communist Mitford sister. So then she moves to the center, becomes one of these third-way Democrats. Then she becomes, as I said, one of these kleptocrat, centrist Democrats. Meanwhile, the party all has slid to the left because all the romance is on the far left. And I do think, in fairness to her, that as stiff and incompetent and incapable of connecting with the voters as she is, that she's learned her lessons from last time. Last time, Trump's Russian pals bought $100,000 worth of Facebook ads and stole the election from her. So she figures if she can get a Kazakh warlord to give her 200 grand to spend Facebook ads on, she can steal the 2020 election back from the Macedonian content farmers, and it will be justice.
When she shows up with a Che Guevara t-shirt, we'll know she's taking your advice. Mark Steyn, great to see you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't think I've ever had an introduction like that, so I'm grateful for it. It's always such a poignant experience to come back to the state, which obviously produced me, and which I loved. And, you know, it's changed in a lot of ways, but then I come here and I'm like, no. This is exactly the group of people I grew up around. And so you just make me feel so much better. You have no idea. No, I'm sincere. And by the way, this library is remarkable. I've never been here before. Whenever I grew up in Los Angeles and then La Jolla. And so when I'm here, I'm in one of those two places or out in the desert or something. But I have never been here, and I was kind of stunned by it, actually. And also stunned by what I'd missed about the Nixon presidency. So my first memory of my life, actually, that I remember was sitting in our kitchen in Los Angeles watching, in the summer of 1974, I was 5, the president resign. And so that kind of defined what I thought of the presidency, I guess. And as much as I spend my entire life trying to resist buying into or internalizing these absurd storylines that are presented to me, the propaganda that bombards us constantly, it's hard not to kind of internalize some of it, if you know what I mean. If you're swimming in a bath full of food coloring, you're going to come out that color, kind of, is the truth. And I'm 49 years old. It had never occurred to me a single time to think about everything that happened during the Nixon presidency. I mean, not major stuff, but just like, ending the Vietnam War. Or, stuff like that, or putting a man on the moon, just the kind of parenthetical things that happened. Or opening up China to the world. And I thought of the administrations I've covered breathlessly, as if this was really significant stuff. I covered the 1996 Dole versus Clinton election. I can't remember who won, actually. Because time really does put things into perspective. And you sort of wake up one morning and you're like, well, why was I so mad about that? Or why did I think that was so very important at the time? And the truth is, it's almost always because everyone around you who talks loudest was saying it was the most important thing. And even if you think for yourself, if you're an independent thinker, you end up kind of believing it, I guess. And that's why propaganda still exists, because it works. So if you live in a world where everybody on every channel is like, Russia! Even if you think it's stupid, after a while you begin to think that Russia is somehow relevant to something, which of course it's not. And in 30 years, I think the rest of us will be sitting around having a drink in our old age saying, what was that? Remember that Russia thing? That was insane, actually. I'm not waiting 30 years. I'm saying that now. Dead sober. Anyway. I couldn't be more grateful to be here. This is Warren, this long book tour. This is just a respite. This is a spa treatment for me. I know, in a wholesome, fully clothed way, but I mean, it really is. It's a spiritual spa treatment anyway, eucalyptus scented. I wrote this book. I did not intend to write a book because I have a day job. I was once a writer. I've written other books, and the one takeaway from that was it's really hard to write a book, and it's something that you do alone, typically in your basement, covered in sweat, eating Fig Newtons, feeling angry. I think I may have revealed too much about my process, but whatever. And I thought, the first 2 times I did it, I thought, that's one thing I'm never doing again, because why would I? That's really, really, really hard. It's like painting your house. It's like one of those things you're like, I'm not going to pay someone else. How hard is it to paint a house? Try it. Right. Anyway, so I got this job, and, I'm not getting super rich, but enough that I don't have to write a book, and I'm not going to write a book. I got so mad that I decided to write a book just as catharsis to get it out. And I was mad about a really simple thing. Well, everything in my life is very simple because I'm a talk show host. I'm not an intellectual. I'm not a particularly deep thinker. I'm actually fairly shallow, which has served me well, by the way. I'm not joking. So I was mad about a very simple thing. It had nothing to do with quantum physics, do you know what I mean, or decoding the human genome. It really was the most obvious of all questions, and what infuriated me, and does even now thinking about it, was the fact that it was never publicly asked or debated. And the question, of course, was, why did Donald Trump just become the president? Yeah, because that was something nobody expected. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody. Not the Republicans, not the Democrats, not Trump's staff, nobody. Not one person called that. Well, you did. You did. You must be, here's what I've learned. Actually, that's not true. I did meet one person, and he's a university professor at a college in upstate New York I've never heard of before or since, and he's a native German speaker who barely speaks English and knows nothing about American politics. And the point is, he was so off the grid mentally that it was obvious to him. So if you take a piece of pork sausage and hold it in front of a dog, and then recite the Gettysburg Address, the dog does not hear a word you say because he doesn't speak English. He looks only at the pork sausage. And so the only people who could see what was going to happen are the people who are not distracted by all the noise. And this guy who didn't know anything about American politics just parachutes in and he's like, yeah, Trump's going to win. And everyone's like, yeah, German guy, shh, adults are talking. But anyway, the point is, the rest of us didn't think this was likely because it wasn't likely. Because even if you thought the Republican was going to win, there was a fairly deep bench of those to choose from. Like a very deep bench. I think there was over 100 Republican candidates, or several hundred, whatever. There's a lot. And it's like, why wouldn't you pick one of those? Why would you pick the guy who'd never been in politics at all? Yeah, that's the answer. Exactly. That's the answer.